Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dallas Daily Show podcast, coming at you live from the Neighborhood Loan Studio here in St. Louis, Missouri. Today's topic is Winning Gameplan, Part 1. I said last week, I kind of hinted at a little bit of my journey personally, and hopefully you guys are getting value out of these, and hopefully they're resonating with you. But if you don't mind, I'm going to ask for a few minutes just to talk a little bit about where I've come from and the journey I've been on, because I hinted at this idea that I went through, was diagnosed with major depression and severe anxiety disorder. So it seemed for the first 2.5 decades of my life, up until about 23, 24 years old, some would call it the quarter life crisis, right? But it seemed like everything was moving spectacularly in my favor. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything just delayed. It seemed like there was denials everywhere. The way I referred to it as it was delays and detours, denials, and flat out just led to my depression. And I was not aware that it was depression at the time. My wife and I had moved to Southern California. We were both in Los Angeles working in the industry, the entertainment industry. And I had done some work as an actor. I mean, glorified background specialist, glorified commercial work. I'd done a little bit of work as a stunt performer. I had done a little bit of work just on that backside of things, writing and doing a couple of script consults and stuff like that. And what I was finding was that none of that was fulfilling. I thought my whole life was moving in that direction. And as weird as it sounds, and I'm going to get really vulnerable with you, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm bald. When I started losing my hair, all of a sudden my castability changed completely. All of a sudden I wasn't going out for the roles that I used to be going out for. All of a sudden I was no longer like leading man, quote unquote. I was now the sidekick. I was now the character actor. And it completely kind of redefined who I thought I was, because when you're in one of those performative arts, some of what happens to you is this idea that you are what you do, and your whole life is kind of based on how well you perform. And I'm a psychologist's dream. They're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that exterior locus of identity, right? So when all of that started to shift, and I had a couple of bosses that were just horrible, nothing was working for me. I was on set one day, and I just went, man, I don't want to do this anymore. Then I started doing stand-up comedy while I was out there. People ask me all the time, you're an introvert, Dallas. Why are you so comfortable on stage? I just have been on stages for a long time, and I love the art and the craft of stand-up comedy, and I worked at places like I regularly performed at the Hollywood Improv, the world-famous Comedy Store, and other little places you'd never know. And I did what they would call hell gigs. I mean, I did performances in the back of a pool hall with a Dodgers game going on behind me. Every now and again, I still do corporate stand-up sets and things like that. But during that time, I was really starting to spiral downward. And we talk about the spiral sometimes, right? The delays and the detours and the denials had me spiraling downward into despair in a lot of ways. And suicidal ideation became a part of the conversation regularly. And I all of a sudden had no sense of value in myself because everything had been disrupted. I think it was a necessary part of my journey as a human, and I can say that now without much emotion because I went through the other side of it. But during that, I preface all this by saying, you guys have heard me say I'm a huge sports fan. We end this show. I mean, I have you download the positive play calls. We end this show with have a championship day. I want you to have a winning life. I mean, this whole series is called the Winning Gameplan. So I'm a big fan of football, specifically NFL football. And during this whole time, as I'm spiraling downward, I'm realizing I'm just losing at life. I'm losing yardage. I'm losing ground. I'm looking up at time itself, and I'm losing time on the clock. And it got so bad one night that my wife, I had a particularly bad spiral one evening, and she, God bless her, felt like she couldn't tell anybody about it. She didn't feel like she could tell my family about it. She didn't feel like she could talk to anyone about it, really, and nobody knew how dark it got for us specifically at that time. And there's one night went really bad. The next day she comes to me and she says, hey, I think you need to go see a therapist. And she hands me a list and she says, you don't get a choice not to go, but you get to choose which of these people to go to. So I went begrudgingly, and I sat down with this man, and he was fantastic. And at the end of our conversation, he said, hey, just so you know, on the analysis, you scored in the 95th percentile of major depression, which basically meant, and I'm sorry if this is triggering for anybody, the only thing I didn't do was attempt anything. You follow me? So I scored in the 95th percentile on major depression, and I was in the 95th percentile on severe anxiety disorder as well. I'm going to talk about those a little more throughout this week, but here's what it came to. I felt like I was losing at life. I explained this idea of this game and football, and I just felt like I was losing at life. And because I'm a fairly competitive person by nature, I like competition, I like achievement, I like being a futurist. There's all these things about me. But because I'm fairly competitive, I was like, if I'm losing, I'm going to figure out a way to win. I want to win at life. I don't want to lose. If I only get one chance on this ball, I want to win at it, right? And so that competitive side of me started coming through. And if I'm losing, how do I win? Well, how do you win in sports? Oh, you have to start scoring points. And so then all of a sudden, I started working with a coach and I was working with my therapist, both in tandem at the time. And I started figuring out a way to gamify my life. Gamification was really big in that time. This was, mid 2015, the aughts, I think they call it, like 2016, 2017, in that era, 2015. And I started gamifying my life, but it wasn't just enough to gamify it. I actually had to have the right game plan. And we're going to talk about what that right game plan is for the rest of this week. So this is the Winning Game Plan Part 1. And the next 4 days, we're going to talk about the winning game plan for the rest of your life, because I'm going to give you 4 ways that you can win. And I call them the 4 I's. I'm going to get into all of them the rest of this week. But basically, if you're feeling fatigued, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling a sense of identity issues, and if you feel like a lack of engagement or a lack of accountability, fatigue, anxiety, identity, lack of accountability. Fatigue, F, anxiety, A, identity, I, lack of accountability, L. F-A-I-L. If you feel like you're failing, I'm going to teach you how to win for the rest of this week. And I hope you can join me. Now, there is a tool and a resource we're going to give you here. I know I'm going an extra minute long on today's episode, but I felt it important to tell you a little bit about my story. At our website, which is dallasdailyshow.com, I have a tool and a resource for you. It's called the Positive Play Call. I'm going to hold it up to this camera here, Taylor, if we can maybe show that. So that Positive Play Call, it's a single download. You can see I print mine up on cardstock, and it's 5 days, because this show goes 5 days a week. And what you can do is you can cut them up into little like prescription cards, little play calls. And I keep them, guys, I keep them on my mirror. I keep them on my dashboard. I keep them on my bookshelf. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to go to dallasdailyshow.com. I want you to download the Positive Play Call book. And on the first one, I'm going to go ahead and hold this up. You're going to cut it up and you're going to say those words. See if we can get that. I will win today because I am a champion. I will win today because I am a champion. That's what you're going to write on your Positive Play Call. All right? That is what I want you to do. Download that. This whole week is going to be about your winning game plan, and you're going to write, I will win today because I am a champion. Because, my friends, you are. There are 2 potential futures out here. You'll hear me talk about that even more next week in our Mind Shift calls. But there are 2 potential futures out here, and the future you want to become is a champion. You're a winner. You're not helpless. You're not hopeless. You're not worthless. You are a champion. And that's what I want you to do today. I want you to have a championship day. I always say it, don't I? I always say it to you. This is part of it. Daily stories of insight, inspiration, and now we're adding daily action. Small little implementable things. Write this out. I will win today because I am a champion. Put it in a book. Put it wherever you need. Go to dallasdailyshow.com. Download the Positive Play Calls. And now I really will end it with that phrase. Have a championship day.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more tools, go to dallasdailyshow.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.